Great. So we are recording today's conference, and Anna, my colleague who is working the controls behind the scene, if you could enable me to advance the slides or go ahead and advance the slides, that would be great. And so we are here today for the school-based mentoring for students at high risk for dropping out of school, the Achievement Mentoring Program. And I am Sherry Barr with the Center for Supportive Schools and have several special guests with me today that we'll get to meet in just a moment. Great. And so sorry, there's a little technical glitch there with advancing the slides, but I think we're all set now. And so today we're going to spend some time together talking about the Achievement Mentoring Program, and we are thrilled that we have with us special guests who are implementing this program in their schools and will be sharing with us some of their experiences with the program. And so we'll, before we start off and introduce those special guests, we'll just do a couple of pieces of housekeeping. So everybody on the call, with the exception of our special guests, has been muted. However, just because we know that schools are busy places and sometimes can be noisy, if you could go ahead and just mute yourselves as well for that added layer, that would be great. And then our presenters, while your lines are unmuted, if you could mute when you're not talking, that will just help with sound quality throughout our time together. So if everyone could mute, that would be great. And then for our presenters, whenever you're talking, or our special guests, when you're talking, if you just remember to unmute, that would be fantastic. Due to the number, which we're excited to have so many participants on today's webinar experience with us, we are unfortunately not able to take questions from participants throughout the webinar. However, we encourage you, as you have questions, to use the chat feature on the webinar. And so if you look at your computer screen, you should see, it will probably show up for you in the bottom left-hand corner an option to chat. If you have a question, just type your question in there and send it off to us. And then what we will do after the conclusion of the webinar is we will, in writing, put together a document that answers all of the questions that have been posed to us, and we will send that out to everyone who has registered for the webinar. And so we'll go ahead and get started. And so in terms of who we have with us today, so again, my name is Sherry Barr. I'm a Vice President with the Center for Supportive Schools. Have been with the organization for going on 16 years and work in support of our solutions and work directly with schools and our school partners across the various regions in which we work. And I am thrilled to be here with you today to be talking more about the Achievement Mentoring Program. And we'll just go down the list, and special guests, if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us who you are, what your role is in your school, the school that you're representing, and your role on the program. That would be great.
Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name's Bennett Lieberman. I am principal of Central Park East High School. This is my 11th year. Central Park East High School is in East Harlem in Manhattan. We have an approximate population of 470 students, and I am the stakeholder coordinator for the Achievement Mentoring Program at Central Park East.
Good morning, everyone.
Great.
Gabriella, also referring to myself as Gabby Rivera, and I am a second-year Spanish and ESL teacher here at Central Park East High School, and I have been a mentor to 2 students since February of 2015.
Hi, I'm Gregory. I'm a 12th grader in Central Park East High School. I've been a mentee program for a year and a half now.
Hi, I'm Mindy. I'm 11th grader. I'm a student at Central Park East, and I've been with the program since February of 2015.
Hi, my name is Catherine Umbia. I'm the Community School Director at the Brooklyn Lab School, which is a small high school of 336 students located in the Cypress Hills, East New York section of Brooklyn. I'm also the stakeholder coordinator at Brooklyn Lab for Achievement Mentoring, and I mentor 5 students.
Good morning. My name is Luz Rivera. I'm a 12th grader who attends Brooklyn Lab School, and my mentor is Catherine. I've been with Achievement Mentoring since September of 2016.
Great, thank you. Welcome to all of you. We look forward to hearing more from you throughout our time together this morning, and it's fantastic to have a stakeholder team coordinator, which we'll talk a little bit more about what that means in a bit, mentors and student participants in the program represented here today, and look forward to hearing more about your experiences in just a bit. For those of you who may not be familiar with the Center for Supportive Schools, I'll take a moment to introduce the organization. We partner with schools to help create safer and more supportive, engaging, inspiring environments. We have served hundreds of schools since 1979 when we got our start. And annually, our work touches tens of thousands of students, educators, and parents. And we are highly committed to implementing effective programs in partnership with communities that have large numbers of economically disadvantaged youth. And want to acknowledge that the program that we're talking about today, the Achievement Mentoring Program, is a program that was developed by Dr. Brenna Bree, who is a professor at Rutgers University, and we work in partnership with her to partner with schools and school districts to implement the program. And so before diving into talking about some of the specifics and the components of the Achievement Mentoring Program model, I want to take a few moments to set the context for why school-based mentoring. And so last year, America's Promise released a report, and if you haven't seen it, recommend that you take a look at it. There's a link on the slides, which you'll have access to after this session, where you can access the report. It's a fantastic report called Don't Quit on Me, What Young People Who Left School Say About the Power of Relationships. And for this report, what they did was they spoke to young people themselves and gained their perspectives on the roles that relationships with adults and peers play in decisions about staying in, leaving, and returning to high school. And from their conversations with a large number of students who left school, a key recommendation that this report emphasizes for keeping students in school is to invest in building relationships and leveraging students' strengths. And we were also excited that the report recommends CSS as a key resource for doing this through our evidence-based solutions such as achievement mentoring. So the importance of relationships for staying in school. And then looking at this from a numbers perspective, thinking about school-based mentoring, what we know is from another report called The Mentoring Effect, also links to how to access that report at the bottom of this slide. This report references and talks about the mentoring gap, which is essentially that there are large numbers of young people who are not getting the support that they need from adults. And so 1 in 3 young people overall and 37% of at-risk youth report that they've never had an adult mentor while they were growing up. And then even if what we could do is double the number of volunteer mentors, the out-of-school mentors, research suggests that even if we double that number, we'd still be reaching less than 10% of the young people in need. And then approximately 16 million youth will reach age 19 without an adult mentor. And so I think some of these statistics speak to the importance of thinking about how to integrate mentoring directly within the context of the school day so that we can reach more students who can benefit and reach their potential with that added layer of support from an adult. And so at this point, I want to turn to some of our special guests and ask you, and maybe Bennett, if you could just kick us off with maybe your thoughts in response to this first question. So as you think about school-based mentoring, based on your experiences, what are some of the most important benefits to integrating mentoring into the school day?
So let me back up just a quick second and just more broadly answer that question, and then I'll focus in on the school-based mentoring. I've just throughout my career, I've always been a firm believer in the power of relationships, and I think the power of relationships cuts across both students in a school-based setting and adults in a professional setting. And I've been in my career, I've been the beneficiary of people who have taken time out of their lives to mentor and guide me, and I've definitely my career has I've been benefited by having those professional relationships, and I think it's really important for everyone to have positive relationships, whether they're a student or whether they're an adult. So we've been doing a lot of informal mentoring at Central Park East High School. Before we had partnered with CSS and the Achievement Mentoring Program, and one of the things that drew me to it was, it was school-based, which means that it was the students' actual teachers that were taking on the role as the mentors. There's a lot of mentoring programs out there that schools can partner with where it's people who aren't school-based. They're outside of the school. And I've always kind of felt like developing relationships inside of the building is more beneficial to students in their day-to-day school lives. So love the fact that it was in school. Love the fact that my teachers were getting very specific training on the program, and that the steps that were involved in that training were very laid out and very specific, and everyone was going to be doing the same thing and building those relationships over time with the students. So, for me, it was the training, it was the actual, I'm at a loss for words here, but it was the systematic approach that everyone was going to be engaged in, and that it was going to be being taken over a longer period of time. A lot of mentoring programs are programs that are short periods of time. This program goes on, depending on the grade of the student, for 2, possibly 3 years.
Great, thank you. And just to underscore, absolutely, we can all benefit from having a caring adult in our life who takes a sort of an extra special approach to help achieve potential. And so, point well taken. And then we'll talk, so you underscored with respect to achievement mentoring specifically some of the things that were appealing to you, the training, the structured model, that it is something that's sustained over a longer period of time. And for the folks on the phone, we'll talk a little bit more about what that looks like in just a bit. So thank you. And maybe we could go to one of our students, mentees, Luz. Would you be willing to share your thoughts on this as you think about getting mentoring in the context of the school day? What do you think are some of the most important benefits of this kind of approach?
Yes, I think having a school-based mentor helps me stay focused throughout the school day because I can come to Catherine whenever I'm losing focus. It also fits into my schedule at school, so I don't have to take time away from homework or after-school activities to receive mentoring. So I think that's a huge advantage.
Thank you. So staying focused, and it's something that you have access to within the context of the school day. You're already there, and it sounds like it's helpful to have the mentor working with you, during school hours. Catherine, I know you've been working directly with Luz. What are your thoughts about this benefit to integrating mentoring into the school day?
Well, I think we see students more often in school than any other adult may see them in their lives. So it's really important that they have these supports in school. Here at Brooklyn Lab, we're in our second year of being a community school. And so one of our missions is to change the culture of the school to provide more holistic services to students that focus on not only their academics, but also their mental health, their physical health, how they're feeling every single day, their family lives, what's going on outside of school, because it's our primary mission to provide more resources and services to students and their families. So Achievement Mentoring has fit really nicely into the culture of our school and how we're trying to change that culture to establish greater connectedness between our students and the adults that support them here. So it really takes into consideration, too, the stress that our students experience in school. I mean, young people, especially teenagers, are going through a lot of changes. They have Regents exams. They have stress with relationships, with family, with college, with finances, all of these things that are impacting them. So Achievement Mentoring has really let us kind of dig into those things with our students, and they now have people they can talk to about anything that's happening, not just an academic-related issue. So we're really trying to transform the idea of school as being just a place for academics as also being a place where, students can receive mental health services and support, since every teenager is stressed out.
Great, and some really important points there. So we heard a little bit about some of the benefits from some of our special guests from their perspective to integrating mentoring into the school day. Now I'd like to switch to some of the challenges. And so with any new program or new approach, there are challenges. And wondering what challenges you've faced in your school-based mentoring program and what helped to address or overcome these challenges. And Gabby, if you'd be willing to kick us off with your thoughts about the challenges and how you've addressed these, that would be great.
So I think one of the most challenging things that I personally experienced with my mentees was having to take a student that was so used to being in a routine and, kind of going through their schooling, doing the same thing, and having to break them out of that pattern and help them come up with their own goals to now almost like erase everything they've done in the past and change something to see those results that we were all hoping to see. Also, throughout that time, I think it was very difficult or a little stressful when we kind of just assume that after we set goals with students that they're going to magically change overnight. And it's important to realize that this is a process, and we can't just constantly focus on the bad things that the students continue to do. And even if we just see a little difference in them, that shows us that we're actually moving them in the right direction. So I think for me, one of the things was I would constantly look at my mentee, Greg, and I would say to him, well, why aren't the grades changing, or why isn't this happening? But, it's important to take a step back and kind of realize that even though I wasn't getting those big results, there were little improvements in what he was doing. And I did find comfort in talking to the other mentors at this school and noticing how similar we all had, we were all in similar situations with our mentees. But I think that having to get into that mindset that we're eventually going to get them there. And as Bennett mentioned before, it is a process over the 2 years with some of them. So, I think that just kind of noticing them change over time is rewarding.
Great, thank you. And the importance of patience and persistence and sticking with it. I know what we know is, one of the challenges of mentoring programs can be that when you don't see change early on, it can be challenging to keep going. And we, if we don't keep going as a mentor, we may be stopping at a really critical time when students most need it. And so while we're, may not see sweeping changes at first, the persistence and the stick-with-itness over time, pays off, and to sort of maybe readjust expectations, it sounds like, can be helpful.
Right.
Bennett, how about you? What from your perspective as principal, administrator, and stakeholder team coordinator, thoughts about challenges from your perspective, and what's helped to address those challenges?
Well, for us at Central Park East High School, managing resources is always the greatest challenge, and the resource that I think gets under the most amount of stress in a program like this is time. Finding the time for the mentors and the mentees to interact, not overwhelming the mentors with too many responsibilities day in and day out, because they're already overwhelmed with a variety of responsibilities in just their normal teaching day. Finding the time as a group to meet periodically after school and talk about obstacles and challenges and successes. And so, it's not, I wouldn't call it the challenge or the obstacle, but for me the primary concern is making certain that my staff doesn't burn out in the process of trying to make a difference.
Yep, a super important consideration. So thank you. So we've heard a little bit in terms of great benefits to school-based mentoring, and then some of the considerations or challenges. And from here, I want to move into talking, and in the context of talking about those benefits and challenges, I've talked about some of the pieces of achievement mentoring, and want to move into talking a bit more about this specific school-based mentoring model known as achievement mentoring. The purpose, and so we'll start with kind of the big picture, the purpose of achievement mentoring is to provide students who are at risk of dropping out of school due to academic or behavior challenges, but also students who, well, we may not be seriously concerned that they're going to drop out of school. What we do know is that they may not be working to their potential. We know that they can do better. And with a mentor, with a school-based caring adult who's going to support, encourage, and advocate for their success, we're pretty sure that they're going to get closer to their potential, or exceed their, or exceed even any, potential that we thought was possible. And so achievement mentoring is designed to provide a school-based caring adult for students. And then there are some specific goals that the program seeks to achieve, and we'll just take a look at these together. So the first one is to reawaken among student participants a passion for achieving life success now and in the future. And so helping students think about what it is they want for themselves in the future, to kind of identify their life dream. And then from there, to be able to focus in on, how you get there. But before you can focus in on how you get there, you really need to help students kind of think about, what's possible for their future, and to connect with that. Another goal of achievement mentoring is to, help students to form a connection to school, to learning, achieving, or to reform a connection if they're becoming disengaged or are disengaged. And then achievement mentoring it focuses on specific areas. And so a goal is to eliminate one or two risk factors for dropping out of school, academic challenges or behavior challenges, or both. And so recognizing that there are a lot of challenges that our students face, and a mentoring program may not be able to address all of them. And this achievement mentoring program recognizes that within the context of this model, we're not going to be able to address all of them well, and so it specifically is focused on helping with academic challenges and behavioral challenges. And then it's also designed to equip students with effective problem-solving skills, for navigating the variety of, challenges that, come their way. And so what makes achievement mentoring different from other mentoring programs? And so some of the defining features of achievement mentoring that, may be different from other mentoring programs is, one, that it's integrated into the school day, as we've already talked about. In addition to that, there's a focus on stakeholder development. So there's a focus on thinking about before the program is ever up and running in a school, thinking about who are the key stakeholders who really need to be involved and bought in to the program, excited about the program, thinking through how to best integrate it into the school day so that, thinking back to one of the comments Bennett made, so that the teachers and other staff who are mentors are taking on a caseload that makes sense. So that they don't become burnt out with all of the responsibilities that they typically have, and then adding an additional piece on, sort of thinking about how to manage that, how maybe to sort of rebalance some roles and responsibilities, or just think again about what a realistic caseload is. Thinking about when, in the context of the school day, it will make the most sense for the mentor and the mentees to meet, making sure that they have space, privacy to do that. So the stakeholder development, which is really thinking through and putting into place an infrastructure for the program to succeed and to be sustainable. In addition, there is both training for the mentors that happens periodic. So there are 3 full days of training that happen over the series of several months. And then in between trainings, there's ongoing coaching, consultation, and support provided to the mentors. So in the context of this work, mentors may experience, a challenge, and it would be really helpful to get some other ideas about how to address the challenge. And so this model provides ongoing support to mentors in between training. There's also specific topics and a specific structure that's used in the context of the work between the mentor and the mentee, and this mentoring program also taps into and utilizes student data. Additionally, it motivates students differently to consider changing. And so rather than kind of focusing on all of the potential problem areas or challenge areas, it specifically focuses on praising the students for positive behaviors and helping the student kind of deconstruct and figure out, how that positive behavior was accomplished so that it can be repeated and built upon. And so sometimes it involves redefining success and what that means for a student and praising, even what may seem like a small success, because that's a really important piece of being able to build on that and see even more. And then, as we've already heard, it's low intensity and long term, and so it's 2 to 3 years. And want to, from here transition into sharing a special mentor moment. And so on the line with us, we have Luz, a student participant, a mentee, and Catherine, her mentor. And just want to share this exciting success, and then we'll hear from both of them in just a moment. But since beginning achievement mentoring, Luz has maintained excellent attendance at school. She was recently awarded an academic award for honors in her English class, and she's now on track to graduate in June 2016. Through achievement mentoring, she has become more deeply connected to her teachers and has developed a sense of pride in her accomplishments. And so we are super excited for both Luz and Catherine, and congratulate Luz on her hard work. And would love to hear a bit more. And so, Catherine, we'll start with you as Luz's mentor. As you think about what's just been offered and what I kind of shared in terms of the goals of achievement mentoring and some of the unique features, what resonated with you as you were listening to that, as you think about your experience with achievement mentoring?
Well, I think one of the things that's resonated with me the most is that achievement mentoring really allows you to meet students where they are at the time that you start meeting with them. So when I first started meeting with Luz, she didn't necessarily have the same goals for herself that I had for her. And so I think one of the biggest accomplishments was, hearing from her what she wanted to change in her life. And it had nothing to do with, school or her academics. So that's where we started. And then we were able to work up to improving her focus on school. So I think because the goals allow you to focus on all areas of student growth, not just academics, we were really able to build a relationship. And, students can set their own small attainable goals, so they're really able to meet those goals for themselves.
Great, thank you. And then Luz, how about from your perspective? What resonates for you as you were hearing the program described and thinking about your own experience with achievement mentoring?
It allows me to have a meaningful, trusting, non-judgmental relationship with someone without feeling like I'm being punished for my mistakes. I'm also able to set my own goals, which means I'm more likely to achieve them.
Great, thank you. And so really, sort of what I'll underscore and underline there is having the student, the mentee, define the goals, that there's ownership in the goal, and then the mentor supporting the student in achieving that goal is a theme I heard throughout both of those responses. And would love to hear from our other students who are also on the line with us today. And so, Greg, if maybe you could also share, in what ways you've experienced, directly some of the features of this model as positive, impactful, beneficial to you.
As Lou said, it gave me someone to talk to that wasn't my friend, or if I was too scared to talk to my mom or any parent. It gave me somebody to talk to about life problems, problems outside of school. It also helped me set goals for myself. I wasn't forced to set them, so it was more meaningful to me. So I had my goals and not my mentors.
Great, thank you. And Minzy, how about you?
One of the unique features I experienced during this program is having a more intimate, I guess you could say, connection with my teachers, because usually when students go to school, it's just a teacher-student relationship. There's nothing more, nothing less. But coming into this program, I've experienced, I can actually talk to my teachers. In a way, she gives me motivation. She gives me motivation to go to school, do the best that I can do. So, yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you all. So ways that, so we've heard a bit about some of the specific ways that, achievement mentoring has been helpful. And we'll continue to move forward and learn a bit more about the program model, and do that by looking at the program structure. And so when we were looking at some of the unique features, we talked about the stakeholder development as one of the features. And so in thinking about the structure, the individuals and the groups within the school who are involved in the implementation of achievement mentoring, one of the first pieces of the structure is the stakeholder team. And so the stakeholder team is typically about 4 to 6 administrators, faculty, counselors, other school staff who are really critical to have at the table, planning for how to best integrate achievement mentoring into the school day so that it is both successful and sustainable. And then one of the first tasks of the stakeholder team is to identify a stakeholder team coordinator. And the stakeholder team coordinator's role is to convene the stakeholder team at key times to talk about decisions that need to be made about program implementation, to ensure that the mentors have the resources that they need in their role as a mentor. The stakeholder team is also the primary liaison to CSS as we're working to establish trainings and to schedule on-site meetings. And so we heard from Bennett what his role on the program, in addition to being the principal of the school, is he is a stakeholder team coordinator and convenes his stakeholder team and provides support to the mentors. And then, of course, we have mentors who are already existing staff members at a school who volunteer to be mentors and to participate in training and the ongoing consultation, and to work with students who have been identified as students who could benefit from a program like Achievement Mentoring. The mentors meet each week with their mentees, and they meet each week. They check in with one of the mentees' teachers, and that teacher may be different each week, but each week the mentor reaches out to a teacher of a mentee and checks in about how things are going with the mentee. And then each month the mentors communicate with the mentees' parents and guardians, and essentially what they are doing is they are communicating something really positive about what the mentee has done over that past month. And so they're reaching out with a positive message. And so in each school, there's a stakeholder team coordinator, mentors, and mentees. And then there's this family component where there is monthly outreach to the family. And so a next question might be, well, who serves as the mentors? And so really anybody who's already on site, on staff at a school can serve as a mentor. The roles that are listed up here on this slide are some of the common folks and roles that mentors have, but really anybody who is working in a school can volunteer to be a mentor. How to select students? So this is a common question that gets asked about Achievement Mentoring. And so it's recommended that schools select students who, as we talked about a bit earlier, have been identified by an adult in the school, maybe a guidance counselor, maybe a teacher, maybe an administrator, as not working up to their potential, that with some additional support that they can be doing better in school. Recommend that students who are most likely to benefit from a one-on-one, adult-led, behaviorally focused mentoring program are selected. And so a one-on-one, adult-led mentoring program may be a great fit for some students. There may be another intervention that might be a better fit for some students. So really kind of thinking through, is this the best approach for this particular student? Also, students who may have unusually high absenteeism or tardiness, but students who are at least attending school, ideally 3 times per week. Since the mentoring happens in the context of the school day, it's important that these are students who are coming to school. Attendance may be an issue that we want to support them around, but they at least need to be in school in order to be able to participate in the program. Maybe students who are failing 1 or more courses, maybe students who have had some discipline referrals over the past year, or students who have been identified as being at risk of dropping out of school, as identified, in consultation with principal, guidance counselor, teacher, other school support staff. So these are some of the offerings that, we work with schools to think about as you are selecting students. And, again, want to turn to our special guest and just want to ask, from your experiences in thinking about mentor selection or student selection, what has been maybe a lesson learned about this? What's worked well for your school, maybe what challenges you've faced? And Bennett, if you'd be willing to kick us off with your thoughts about this, that would be great.
Sure. So we've gone through one selection process so far, because all of the students that were a part of the initial part of the program have been continuing, and we won't have our second selection happen until I think the fall of next year. But one thing I would say, and I think it's for me, I think the success of the mentor-mentee match is really incumbent upon the time and energy and effort that's put into the selection process. we had I would say, fairly rigorous and time-consuming process by which the mentors got together. They cobbled together a very extensive list of potential mentees. That was probably 4 or 5 times larger than we actually had room for in terms of the number of mentees. They then submitted that list to another set of eyes, which was my school's guidance team. And the guidance team, for a variety of reasons, would say, that student already has somebody. And, so they went through the list and then gave it back to my stakeholder team. And, it was probably a process that took 3 or 4 meetings, each one, an hour or 2 in length, before we actually settled on the list. And then once that had been established, we had to decide which mentor was going to be matched with which student on the list, and that also required a lengthy and healthy conversation.
So it sounds like a very thoughtful, and it sounds like systematic, strategic process worked well for you.
And how Greg and Mindy ever ended up on the list, we'll never know, but they managed to make it through to the end.
Fantastic. And Gabby, anything else that that you'd like to offer, maybe a different perspective or anything that you want to build on?
Well, having gone through that whole process that Bennett just mentioned, fortunately for me, I've actually had the pleasure of teaching both Greg and Mindy in class. So I did have some starting point with them, but, it is a little scary in a sense to get matched with a student that you may not have a strong relationship with. Having Mindy in class, she was a very quiet girl who I didn't really know much about. So it was a little difficult to kind of break her out of her shell when we started. But, looking at her now, I would never have thought that we would have gotten this far. So fortunately for me, I did have some relationship with the students that I did get matched with.
Right. So it sounds like that may be helpful if that's possible in terms of matching as an existing relationship with a student. Catherine, how about your thoughts about mentor, and or student selection?
So at Brooklyn Lab School, we have a really large number of students that have, that are either chronically absent or have attendance issues. So that was one of the preliminary criteria for matching a student with a mentor, was that they had to have between 80 and 90% attendance. With the goal of that being that, these are students that are in school some of the time, obviously, so that they can meet with their mentors, but that still need help improving their attendance. And we also, our principal had a vision of enrolling achievement mentoring with every single teacher and staff person at our school, which is what we've done this year. And it's been wonderful because it's kind of brought all of our teachers together as well. But it is a really large number of staff, so it's 40 staff who are mentoring. And each person has been assigned 3 or more students. Our principal himself has 7 students that he mentors. So it's been a very, very large undertaking for our school. And, obviously a lot of our teachers, so they didn't necessarily volunteer. Many of them were on board with the selection process, but they didn't necessarily commit wholeheartedly to it. So we've had some challenges with that we're working through and thinking about next year. But I think what's worked especially well for our school is taking into consideration pre-existing relationships. So teachers and staff had the opportunity, in given the students, they were given a list of all of the students that qualified for mentoring, and they were able to actually, let me know as a stakeholder coordinator the students that they felt would be a good fit for them. So as best I could, I tried to match mentors with mentees that they already knew, and I think that's really helped, further these relationships, and also has helped the mentees feel comfortable coming to their mentors. So that's been something that's worked really well for us.
Great, thank you. And then just to sort of underscore that, represented among our special guests, the two schools that are represented on this webinar today, Central Park East and Brooklyn Lab School, they're implementing the Achievement Mentoring Program in two different ways. And so at Central Park East, existing school staff volunteered to be mentors, and there's a subgroup of the overall staff who are mentors who volunteered, who are participating in the training and working directly with mentees. And then at Brooklyn Lab, this is a full school initiative, which is another way to implement the program where all of the staff members become mentors and participate in the training and the consultation and work with mentees. And so either of those models can work in a school, and wanted to just acknowledge or sort of underscore that. So thank you. So continuing to kind of dive more deeply then into the program and the elements that comprise Achievement Mentoring, want to call out the essential program components. And so what are the defining features of Achievement Mentoring? There are individual meetings with the mentees that happen on a weekly basis. There's a once-per-week teacher interview where the mentor checks in with the teacher, and we'll talk about what that looks like in just a minute. There's student record collection. So a component of the model is the mentor has access to discipline records, grade records, attendance records. And so integrating, looking at utilizing student records. A weekly report form, and we're going to look at that in the very next slide, but this is a tool that the mentor uses in the teacher interview that happens on a weekly basis. There's also weekly check-ins with the coordinator. So we have two stakeholder team coordinators on the webinar with us today. And so the mentors check in weekly with the coordinator about how it's going. The ongoing mentor consultation meetings that happen at least monthly. And then the monthly contact with the parents and guardians, which we talked about, and then the longevity of the program, that mentoring is sustained over 2 years. And what we know from research that's been done on the program, and we heard, firsthand anecdotally earlier in the webinar, the importance of sticking with the mentoring, that sometimes it takes 2 years to really see the outcomes that we know that the program can accomplish. And so that's an important component. So the weekly report form. We'll just describe this briefly. This is one of the tools, kind of a protocol that's utilized in the context of achievement mentoring. And so the mentor uses the weekly report form in a very brief interview with one of the mentee's teachers, where they're kind of asking about, whether, what's happened most recently with the student, whether was the student in school, was the student on time, how often, always, roughly, sometimes never. Did he or she have materials for class? What about their behavior in class? What about the class work? How about homework? Any recent grades? And then there's a place to kind of elaborate and provide any more details about any of the assessments from above. And then one really important piece is for the mentor to solicit from the teacher a positive comment about the student. So something the student did well, a success that the student experienced. And then the mentor uses the weekly report form in the work with the mentee and provides, and so when the mentor and the mentee are meeting, there are some specific steps that the mentor follows. And so the first step is the mentor finds out, finds out how the last week has gone for the student, and then provides some feedback that the mentor has obtained from either school records or from that weekly interview with the teacher, and then provides the positive comment that was obtained from the teacher. And so, your teacher said that this week you did really well on your math quiz, and that you got an F, whatever the grade may be. Let's talk about that, and that's great, that's fantastic, and praising that, and then helping the student the mentee deconstruct. So how did you do that? So what did you do in preparation for the math quiz? that enabled you to do well on it. And then they work together to problem solve, how to have a positive record next week or how to have success over the next week. They practice. They may practice together an important behavior that they discussed. And so maybe one of the behaviors that they practice together is, the student really needs to have an important discussion with one of his or her teachers and isn't quite sure how to do that. So the mentor and the mentee may practice that in the context of the weekly session. And then the final step, which is critical, is ensuring that the mentee has, in step 4, has identified a goal for the week, and then in step 6, writes that goal down. And the key piece here is that the mentee identifies the goal, and we heard earlier from the students themselves how important it is for the goal to come directly from the student, so that the student, has kind of bought in, has ownership, that it's not the mentor's goal, but it's the mentee's goal. So in the interest of, so I think I'll just pause here and maybe just ask Catherine if you'd be willing to answer this. And so we've just reviewed some of the protocols and ones that are involved in achievement mentoring, and just wondering from your perspective, how the protocols or even the training that's been provided, how has this been helpful in contributing to your school's success?
So I guess I'll start with the trainings. The trainings have been really helpful for us, even just in terms of building staff camaraderie. Staff have come away from our training kind of joking that they're like group therapy sessions, and they've realized how much there is a need for integrating that within the school day, to have that space where they can come together and talk about their students and share strategies. So that's been really helpful. Also, the protocols kind of help hold staff accountable to themselves and to each other. So, if teachers don't check in with another teacher about a student, they'll talk about that. So that's been really helpful. And then it also gives our students concrete visuals of their performance and allows them to set those attainable goals for themselves. So I think all of the protocols combined with the trainings really make the program impactful and successful here at Brooklyn Lab.
Great, thank you. And Gabby, how about your thoughts about this one?
I agree with what Catherine has said. I do find the training to be very helpful when I'm working with my own students. I also think that, having those written reports weekly hold the students accountable for what they're doing in their classes, and it allows us also to see growth over time. For example, with Mindy, one of her things was attendance, and after a couple of weeks, we started changing our goals because that didn't apply to her anymore. So she kind of saw the change that was happening in that, short amount of time that I was working with her.
Great, thank you. And so I think this is a great segue. We both referenced the training, and so we'll talk a little bit about the support that's provided by CSS to achievement mentoring sites. So there's an initial on-site meeting that's held with administrators and other key stakeholders with a stakeholder team that we talked about. A CSS consultant facilitates that meeting. There are 3 days of on-site mentor training that happen over the course of the first academic year that the program is implemented. There's a manual, an achievement mentoring manual that sites receive. And then there's the ongoing mentor consultation and coaching that a consultant from CSS provides the mentors in between the trainings. And then there are follow-up stakeholder team meetings with administrators, with the stakeholder team to assess how it's going. As you think about, planning for next year, what might you want to adjust and do differently? So an overview of the support. One additional considerations I think I'll just call out here is typically as you're kind of thinking about a case load, it's helpful to think about, it's an additional 30 minutes approximately per week for each mentee. So I'm thinking about, whether or not a mentor can, take on 1, 2, 3, 7 mentees, really thinking that, the mentor needs 30 minutes per student per week. And then just want to acknowledge that there are also beginning and end of the year mentor-mentee events to help form relationships between the mentor-mentee and to kind of say goodbye before the summer months. Program outcomes. So in just a minute, we're going to turn back to our special guest as we begin to wrap up and hear about what some of the impacts and benefits have been on them and their school for having achievement mentoring, but want to acknowledge that the program has been rigorously evaluated and has several long-term controlled evaluations behind it, which have demonstrated that it decreases school dropout, improves grades, increases school attendance, decreases discipline referrals, and decreases juvenile arrest, and would be happy to send anybody who's interested in learning more about these studies additional information, but just want to acknowledge that it has been rigorously tested. And then, so that's sort of the rigorous testing, but want to hear again from our special guest on the phone or on the call today about, how the program has been impactful to you. And so maybe, Ben, if you'd be willing to kick us off with your thoughts. So this first question on here, as you think about achievement mentoring in your school, it's been there now for almost 2 years, what's happening that says to you that it's making a difference?
Well, I'm a big believer in looking at both qualitative and quantitative outcomes when it comes to students who are participating in certain programs. Quantitatively, my students that are participating in the program pretty much across the board are showing improved attendance. They're showing improved grade point averages. They're showing an improvement in the number of credits that they're earning. If they attended summer school, they had positive summer school outcomes. It's been, from my perspective, it's been pretty amazing looking at this group and where they were before they started the program, and just in terms of their academic and attendance performance, where they stand now. Qualitatively, I think what Gabby was referring to, where she referenced how different her relationship is with Mindy at this point, and that she never thought she would have had that kind of relationship with her. For me, seeing the students with a far more positive affect, both in their performance and their approach to school, and how the development of these positive relationships have caused them to engage in school in a way that we might not have seen before.
Great, that's fantastic. Really great to hear. And would love to hear from the students now, from your perspective. In what ways has achievement mentoring had an impact on you? And Luz, if maybe you can kick us off, and then we'll hear from Greg and Mindy too.
Having a mentor has definitely kept me focused and helps me with my work It helps me work through whatever problems I may be having, whether it's family issues or academic issues. My grades have improved drastically, and my attendance has improved as well. I also feel inspired to mentor others, which I feel is extremely important for building relationships with others.
Fantastic. So it sounds like you've benefited directly in terms of your school's success, and congratulations again to you. And it's also inspired you to want to, give back and mentor others. Fantastic. Greg, how about you, from your perspective? In what ways has achievement mentoring had an impact on you?
It's had a big impact on how I see school in general. Like, I used to, as a waste of time, I would argue with teachers and not really focus on my homework. But I went from failing most classes to going to award ceremonies for teachers that I thought I would never have an award from. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you. And Mindy, how about you?
Just as Greg said, it impacted me in a big way. From what Greg said just a second ago, going to award ceremonies, I never really thought I had the chance to. It impacted me of actually liking going, actually enjoy going to school. I don't see it as much of a chore. from going to the program, I kind of really thought it really was nothing. I didn't think it was going to improve me in such a big way, but after coming into the program, I realized the bad habits I have, such as attendance, and so now I don't need someone to like say go. I just do it for myself. I enjoy coming to school. I like most of my classes. So yes.
Fantastic, and congratulations again to all three of you for the hard work that you've put in on your awards and your achievements. And so three really great examples of three students who, with some additional support, were able to excel in really important ways. And so congratulations again. And we are, we're at the end of our time together, and want to, kind of go back again to our special guest, and maybe we'll give our two mentors the last word for today. And so I think the question to, Gabby and Catherine, for you is, as you think about the folks that are participating today in this webinar, learning about achievement mentoring, wondering and thinking about whether or not it would make sense for their schools, what kind of words of wisdom or advice, or what would you offer them as they're kind of thinking about, possible next steps? Gabby, if maybe you kick us off, and then Catherine.
Throughout this whole conversation that we've been having, I definitely agree with everything that everyone has said. It has created relationship with students beyond the classroom. Now that I'm actually as I continue working with Greg and Mindy, I see other students actually stop by and they ask, and they're curious to know what's going on. And now they're actually begging that they get a mentor. And, we're hoping that even for our school, we expand and have more mentors so that we can reach those students. And it goes beyond just academics, as we said. It is, having that relationship is very important for these students. Especially when they spend more time with us than they do at home or outside, and just knowing that someone in the building, truly does care for them and wants to see them succeed, and just kind of helping them come up with those new habits that they can take from here to, college and beyond that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And Catherine, how about you?
Well, I think at Brooklyn Lab, similar to what Gabby was saying, we have students who didn't get assigned mentors who have been asking for them. So it's actually become cool to have a mentor, which is something I never thought I would see here at Brooklyn Lab. So that's been really amazing. So I think that students do buy into it, and they are looking for that support. So, you might think that they're not, but they really do want that connection with adults, even if they're resistant at first. It is really meaningful for them. So I think just for us as staff, I think it's really important for us to let go of our expectations for students sometimes and kind of let them lead us and let them move us forward in what's best for them. And I think this is a program that really allows them to do that. So I really strongly believe that every high school needs a mentoring program in some way, shape, or form, and I think Achievement Mentoring really provides the structure to do it right. So I would strongly advocate. I think it should be a requirement for all high schools, personally.
Well, that is certainly a strong endorsement for the program, and so glad to hear that it's been so beneficial at both of your schools. And so want to thank, at this point, all of our special guests for participating today. Thank you for all of the great work that you're doing back in your schools as mentors, as stakeholder team coordinators. Congratulations to our mentees for the hard work that you're doing. And thank you to all of you who have participated in this event today. If you are interested in learning more, you can reach out, and I don't know if you can maybe advance the last slide with my contact information on it, but we will be reaching out to everybody with the answers to the questions that came in. There were questions that came in throughout the webinar. We'll be in touch with you. You can reply and respond to us, reach out to us if you're interested in learning more, and we will be sending out an evaluation at the end of we'll be sending out an evaluation about the webinar, and would very much appreciate your feedback about your experience today. And so with that, we will say goodbye and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.